G'day guys, Dean here from Blog for the Blood God, and today I've got a really neat trick on how we can reintroduce the humble Land Raider into competitive Warhammer 40k. That's right, I think I've found a way that we can make the Land Raider actually competitively viable. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into the video.
Blog for the Blood God.
Alrighty, so how are we going to make this Land Raider competitively viable, I hear you ask? Well, there's a few things that we're going to do. It's going to be a Chaos Space Marine Land Raider, we're going to do it in an Iron Warriors list, and we're going to use this Land Raider to serve two functions. Main function is going to be a really durable brick of a unit that's very difficult to kill, and the second is going to be a way that we're going to utilize this unit with the transports inside to score victory points in the game, which ultimately is what all competitively viable lists are prioritizing. How are you going to make your victory points? How are you going to score your points? So we're going to use a Land Raider and some units inside to do that. So let's first have a quick look at the Land Raider datasheet, just to keep everybody up to date and refreshed on what this unit actually does. Alright, so it's got a movement of 10 inches, it's weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 3+, strength 8, toughness 9, which is going to be very relevant in a moment, with 16 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 9, and a 2+ save, which is also going to be quite relevant. So obviously these stats degrade as it takes damage. It's equipped with a heavy bolter, which is, a twin heavy bolter, which is your standard 6-shot, strength 5, 2 damage guns. And it's got 2 twin soul shatter las cannons. So these are heavy 2 each, so you're going to get 4 shots, strength 9, AP 3, and they do D6 plus 2 damage. So that's more or less all you need to know about the Land Raider itself. So it's pretty tough. It's got toughness 9, which is really relevant, and that's really hard to crack through for most guns. And it's also got 2+ save with Armor of Contempt, which again, any low AP weapons are going to really struggle to punch through that armor. But let's talk about why taking it as an Iron Warriors Land Raider is really important and how that sort of dials up that damage to that next level. Alright, so one of the things that you get for being an Iron Warrior is that the second bullet point of their Legion trait has actually changed. This is from the balanced data slate, and basically you now get each time an attack is made against this unit, that attack's wound roll cannot be re-rolled. So when people are going up against those big toughness 9 targets, one of the ways that they're often going to try to get around that toughness is to have some kind of ability that allows them to re-roll wounds. Whether that be bulk small strength attacks that they're just going to go fishing for those 5s and 6s, or whether it be really high powered attacks with low number of shots and they're planning to use command point reroll to make sure that they actually inflict that wound. So they might be wounding you on a 2-up or a 3-up and they're just making sure that they get that result. Either way, Iron Warriors aren't going to allow your opponent to do that, which makes the Iron Warriors Land Raider particularly tough. But that's not all. There's another thing that's going to make that Iron Warriors Land Raider really fucking hard to deal with. 2 CP stratagem called Unholy Vigor. Use this stratagem in any phase when an Iron Warriors Machine Spirit or Iron Warriors Demon Engine unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from the attack's wound roll. We've all seen those Chaos Terminators with that Black Rune of Damnation and just how hard it can be to kill something that has neg 1 to wound. But imagine if that thing was toughness 9 and had a 2-up armor save. Now, you're really gonna struggle to kill it. Things like melter guns, which are dedicated anti-tank weapons, are gonna be wounding on 6s and can't re-roll that wound roll. So it's going to be very hard for anything other than the most extreme super powered damage to hurt this Land Raider. So you can basically put this thing, as long as you have 2 CP in the bank so that you can spend this when your opponent targets you, for the duration of that phase, they are not going to be able to kill this Land Raider. Outside of mortal wounds, of course, that's a whole different thing, but we've got some solutions there. You can put cultists in front. There's a few things you can do to insulate yourself from those mortal wounds, and any direct damage, whether it be from shooting or from melee, you're going to be able to go, cool, 2 CP, neg 1 to wound, and pretty much everything is going to be wounding you on 6s, maybe 5s if they're lucky. Alright, so that's basically what we're doing with the Land Raider. That's how we're going to make this thing tough as nails, and that's how it's going to serve as an anvil. However, you're probably wondering, yeah, cool, you've got a tough Land Raider with a couple of las cannon shots. That's not really that impressive. How is this thing competitively viable? And the way that I think this is competitively viable is it unlocks a really neat trick that you can do to score yourself significant victory points. So the first thing that you're going to need to pull off this trick is a sorcerer. Basically, this is his profile up here now. You all know what a sorcerer does. He's your librarian equivalent for Chaos Space Marines. He's just got your standard Marine profile, and he casts up to 2 psychic powers. Alright, so that's your sorcerer, right? We all know what he does. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take Warp Ritual as one of our secondary selections. Warp Ritual is, if you select this objective, keep a tally of ritual points, add 1 to the tally each time a unit from your army successfully completes the following psychic action during the battle. So it's a Warp Charge 3, so practically impossible to fail. And 1 psychic character from your army can attempt to perform this action in your psychic phase if it's within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. And then at the end of the battle, you score 3 victory points if your tally is 1, 7 if your tally is 2, or 12 if your tally is 3 or more. Alright, so this is a relatively easy secondary to score victory points on. You can rack them up quite fast, and it's quite strong. You're going to do this with your librarian, and the way that this is going to work is you're going to be able to disembark out of that land raider, get in within the center, and cast your Warp Ritual. But that's not all. There's actually another really neat trick that takes this to the next level. We're then going to use the Great Sorcerer Stratagem. This is 1 command point. Use this stratagem at the start of your psychic phase. Select 1 Psyker, has to be Mark of Zinch, but 1 Psyker from your army, and then select one of the following rules to apply. The unit can either manifest 1 additional psychic power, or the unit can perform 1 psychic action and manifest 1 psychic power this phase. So what this means is you've been able to disembark out with your sorcerer, you're going to be able to cast that Warp Ritual, and then you're going to be able to cast another power. And here's the power we're going to cast. Warp Time. So this is a blessing. It has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, selected infantry or chaos spawn within 6 inches of the Psyker, which means you could select the Psyker himself because he is an infantry character and he's within range of himself. That unit can make a normal move. If that unit advanced in your previous phase, it still counts as having advanced. Until the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to declare a charge. Alright, now here's the tricky part. What basically that's going to let you do is re-embark into your transport, because all you need to do to embark in a transport is end a normal move within 3 inches. And whilst you can't disembark and embark in the same phase, because you disembarked in the movement phase and you're embarking in the psychic phase, you're going to be able to re-embark in the transport in the same turn. So we'll get some models on the table now, and I'll show you exactly how it works to help you conceptualize it. But basically, that's the trick. So let's have a look at how it actually works on the table. Alrighty guys, for this demonstration, we've got the trusty Land Raider here. It's a World Eaters Land Raider, but we'll forget about that for now. Let's pretend he's an Iron Warriors one. And then I've also got trusty Sorcerer. This one's an Emperor's Children one, but for this example, we're going to be saying that he is an Iron Warriors Mark of Zinch Sorcerer. Now, we've got an objective marker right there in the center of the table. Basically, that's representing, depending on what deployment you have, that's where your center of the table is going to be for your Warp Ritual. So let's take one of the hardest ones to pull this off, and let's take Hammer and Anvil. So you can deploy in 18 inches from the battlefield edge, which is essentially the same as 12 inches back from the center, right? So you're 12 inches from the center of the table, and your Sorcerer is on the inside of that transport, right? Now, if your opponent goes first, they're going to probably dump a whole bunch of damage into that transport, but they're probably going to struggle to kill it because in their shooting phase or in their assault phase, whichever one they do more damage in, you can spend 2 CP to make that Toughness 9 Land Raider -1 to wound, which is really fucking hard to crack, especially with the 2-up save and the Armor of Contempt. So you've got your Land Raider, it survives the turn, or you go first and it's kind of somewhat irrelevant. And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to disembark out 3 inches with your Sorcerer. Then he's going to move forward 6 inches, right? And he is now wholly within 6 inches of the center of the table. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cast our Warp Ritual, which goes off on a 3, so very, very easy. Then we're going to cast our Warp Time, and then with the Warp Time move, we're going to move back 6 inches, right? Which means we've now finished our move wholly within 3 inches of the Land Raider, so we can re-embark. And now, in your opponent's turn, they can't kill that Sorcerer because they have to get through this Land Raider that we've already established is a very, very hard target and very difficult for them to kill. And then basically you can spend the whole game just jumping out, doing your Warp Ritual, doing your Warp Time, back in, back and forth, and there's nothing your opponent can do to stop you. Now, it's worth noting at this point that this is not an exclusive stratagem, an exclusive trick for the Iron Warriors. You could do this with a humble Rhino, the whole disembark out, cast your power, warp time back in trick. You could do that with a Rhino, you could do that with a Land Raider, you could do that with any of the transport options available, like the Forge World ones, for example. And you could do this with any Legion as well. You could do it with Word Bearers, you could do it with Emperor's Children, there's all kinds of options. The reason I chose Iron Warriors for this example is because that Land Raider is so damn tough that your opponent isn't going to be able to just blow it up. If you try to pull this trick off with something like a Rhino, yes, you can do it, but chances are if you disembark, do your power, then re-embark, they're just going to go, cool, my guns, shoot your Rhino, blow it up, and now your Sorcerer is exposed. And even when they blow it up, there's a chance that you're going to roll a 1 and that Sorcerer is going to die. So it's really important that that vehicle is tough as nails. And I think for the 265 points, the Land Raider is actually really quite good, especially in an Iron Warriors list where they're not able to reroll their wounds against you. You can reflexively make them neg 1 to be wounded. So if they're about to hit you with some serious damage, you can just dial up that defensiveness. Really, really powerful. And it's a really good way of keeping your Sorcerer alive by keeping him inside a vehicle that he will also be able to stay alive in. So that's the strategy, that's the little trick. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks again for those who tune in. Like, subscribe, all that good shit. And let's have a conversation in the comments below about this stratagem. If it's something that you think you could work into your army and your Legion, let's talk about that in the comments below. Thanks again to my Patreon supporters. You've helped me solve problems like the microphone problem, the lighting problem, the camera quality. You also inspire me to get up every morning early so that I can edit and publish this stuff and stay up late recording it. I do this content for you guys, and I really do appreciate the support that I get over on Patreon. If you want to show your support and you aren't already a Patreon, you can either head over there to show your support, or you can check out my various merchandise, all of which I get a small cut from every sale, which helps the channel grow, and it also gives you something in return. You can get the neoprene objective markers like the one used in this video. They're all available in a billion different designs that I've made over on my 3D6 Wargaming site, which there's a link in the description for. Or you can head over to my Teespring and get a shirt like this one so that you can rep it and show yourself at tournaments that you're a Blog for the Blood God supporter and get a little bit something out of it for yourself. So either way you want to go, that's very much appreciated. Or if you just want to send us a comment saying thanks for your work, that also helps drive the YouTube algorithm and is very much appreciated as well. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it here. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Walk for the Blood God.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment, he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel, unsustainable, and your fault.
Do your objective markers ever get lost behind terrain or other models and become difficult to see? Do they ever get bumped and accidentally moved during a game? And do they ever spark arguments about distances? Well, not anymore. Introducing the Blog for the Blood God, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers. Made from the same material as astronaut suits, or maybe military equipment, or probably neither of those things, this 2mm thick neoprene synthetic rubber is tear resistant, water resistant, and is designed to last. But that's not all. The Blog for the Blood God, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers come in a variety of different designs and styles to suit any faction represented in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. These objective markers are a perfect gift for yourself or a friend, and are a perfect way to flex and show your opponent that not only are you a smarter, cooler, and better 40k player than them, but you also have more disposable income than they do. For the low price of $25, you'll get not one, not two, but 6 neoprene objective markers, perfectly designed for 9th edition Warhammer 40k. But wait, there's more. For a limited time only, people who sign up on Patreon to support Blog for the Blood God as a Skull Champion tier $5 per month member will gain access to a custom design service where I will design a unique logo to support their gaming club, like the one I did to the left here for the Potato Farmers local gaming club here in Melbourne. Follow the links in the description of this video to pick up your set today.